This is a momentous item here. This is certainly one of the long-standing, long-awaited projects that have been on our books for quite some time.
I'm here tonight on behalf of planning to present the Newell Road Bridge replacement project, which crosses San Francisquito Creek along Newell Road between Edgewood Drive in Palo Alto and Woodland Avenue in East Palo Alto. The proposed project includes replacement of an existing two-lane bridge with a two-lane bridge along the same alignment. The new bridge would have a shared 10-foot wide vehicle bicycle lanes with 4-foot shoulder for bicycles. And the new bridge would also have 5 feet of dedicated pedestrian access on each side of the bridge. There are 2 striping options. Option A included raised 5-foot wide sidewalks and a 4-foot wide shoulder for bicycle use and 10-foot wide sharrows, which are shared vehicle bicycle use lanes. Option B includes a 9-foot wide shared pedestrian bicycle path and 10-foot wide vehicle lanes. So just to briefly show you, this is a rendering of what the view would look like from Palo Alto, and this is a rendering of what the proposed project would look like from East Palo Alto.
So currently, this project is funded and approved by Caltrans at the percentages shown here, up to $1 million. That is for the environmental documents. This is for the CEQA clearance, everything that we've done up to date. It also has allocated funds for the design, meaning the actual construction documents, preparing the plans necessary to advance the project. In addition, the exhibits needed to complete the right-of-way, the easements that would be required in order to complete this project. Easements are required. Most of them are temporary construction easements, and those will be addressed through conditions of approval. As you can see, the blue line, that's San Francisquito Creek. All the circles represent the flow capacity, the constraints at each of the known bridges. In addition to flood control, this project also proposing to do improvements, as we've discussed, and regarding to improving the safety over this bridge for transportation. So right now, as it is, you can see the bikes are sharing the lane, but there is no designated sidewalks. So this project will provide the multimodal access needed to complete the project, to replace this bridge and provide access to the cyclists, pedestrians, and vehicles.
So one question is, I know that there's been some concerns from some neighbors I talked with about potential traffic impact, which is, I think, some of the motivation for them to want to keep it more narrow. And so one question I have for staff is, right now, is this a Cheryl, where I understand that the bike's a Cheryl? Why not put in a protected bike lane? But that would maybe perhaps provide the traffic calming necessary, and then also give some protection to the bikers that have to cross our bridge. I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about that in terms of what was the thinking about using a Cheryl versus just trying to go with a protected bike lane on this bridge.
Yeah, so the intent of the Cheryl was to, one of the other key comments we were hearing from residents was the concern about the width of the bridge and the concern that they wanted to have the most narrow bridge possible. And so the intent of the Cheryl was to meet Caltrans standards while also having the most narrow bridge we can possibly have.
Yeah, I think the reason why some of the neighbors wanted a narrow bridge is to prevent, I guess there's some concern about like massive amount of traffic coming through this, or cut through traffic coming through this if the bridge is really wide. I think that's the motivation. So, I mean, I think if there was a protected bike lane, and maybe, I guess maybe you could tell me, because that seems to be what the motivation was behind a narrow bridge.
I think that was the motivation behind some of the commenters' concerns. I think there was also concerns from other commenters with respect to our impact on the creek itself.
My name is Ben Ball. I live on Edgewood Drive in Palo Alto. Public works projects should never unnecessarily pit neighbors against each other, and sadly, Palo Alto staff recommendation for Build Alternative 2 does just that. Since 2002, I've communicated to staff, along with many of my neighbors who live close to the Newell Bridge, that protecting our children who use Newell Road to get to school, decreasing speeding on Newell Road, and mitigating traffic increases were equally important to mitigating flooding. Build Alternative 1 satisfies the needs of my neighbors, and it has always satisfied the needs of those who are concerned about flooding. Staff recommends Build Alternative and recommend you support Build Alternative 1. The first bullet point in the objectives of the draft EIR states reducing average car speed and traffic is an objective. Your report states that Alternative 2 best meets these goals, yet the data in the report suggests something different. According to the TJKM traffic report published in 2019 as part of the draft EIR process, Build Alternative 2 will increase traffic by, quote, 2 to 5% from 2020 to 2040 relative to doing nothing. Staff may not believe this is an increase, but residents consider this significant. Additionally, most residents believe this materially understates the increase given the 79% increase in PM traffic over the bridge during the prior 4 years, reported in the same TJKM 2019 2019 report and the fact that the TJKM analysis didn't account for impacts from Uber, Lyft, any of the mobile navigation apps, EPA's 30-year development plan, or Stanford's development plan. Build Alternative 1 is superior to Build Alternative 2 on this criterion. The current bridge starts approximately 200 feet from Edgewood Drive. The configuration of the bridge forces cars to crawl across the bridge in order to avoid hitting cars entering the bridge from the opposite side. Additionally, the current visibility while entering the bridge from Willard Avenue side forces cars to stop prior to entering the bridge. Build Alternative 2 eliminates the need for cars to stop prior to entering the bridge and provides 60 additional feet of roadway for cars to build speed before hitting Edgewood Drive. Under Build Alternative 2, cars will enter the bridge already at speed and will have 30% more unencumbered roadway to build speed. While staff has presented this data as inconsequential, I believe this data demonstrates that Build Alternative 2 fails the objective to, quote, avoid increasing speeds on Newell Road and will increase the average speed across the bridge.
So my question is around the funding. So how much of the funding is actually secure? Because I know that the state is suffering like a $68 billion budget deficit. And I'm wondering like how much of this money is actually really there versus might not be there? Because I know that the state's looking to cut money anywhere they can.
That's right. So Caltrans approves funding at different phases. They've approved the design phase, they've approved the entitlements. They have not yet approved the construction. But we have been working with Caltrans and with Valley Water for a number of years, as stated, and they are aware of our current estimates. They have not said no. They have looked at the estimates, and obviously they're also waiting to get approvals from on the EIR. They're not going to allocate funding to a project that is not approved.
Does option B still qualify as funding, or is there something funding wise? Is there something that makes it not eligible for the funding?
It does qualify for the funding.
Okay, because from my office hours and just from the comments tonight, I think the people that don't live near there but are affected by the flooding want this project done right away. But the people who live near this project are very concerned about the traffic and speeding, safety of their kids. So it seems like option B would be the closer to making everyone happy. It would get the funding, but not be the highway that people fear, right? It's still not as narrow as it used to be, but it's more narrow than option A. It would protect the kids or bikers in general crossing this bridge. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the staff recommendation with option B. So it's hard to make everyone happy on this, and it sounds like it's been going on for a long time. There's a need to fix the flooding problem. It looks like there's some money identified, although maybe it's not all the way there. And if it's not all the way there, we may have to revisit this again. We heard a ton of community output or input on this, both before this meeting and during this meeting. There's a real concern about traffic and safety of the kids. Yeah, I mean, we all know that there was a Green Middle School kid who got killed just before the pandemic. Not here, but other places. I know that bike safety is a big deal in the community. I think this one seems like to be a much safer option than the other alternative, because most bridges actually separate the bikes. So this seems like a much safer alternative, especially if you have elementary school kids crossing this bridge. I think parents would feel a lot safer that there's a curb protecting. And then in terms of the traffic, it is a wider bridge, but it's only 2 feet wider. So it's not going to be like a highway. So it's something which I think is a bit of a compromise, but it's probably a closer compromise to what people would accept. The question is, how do we make as many people happy as possible? And this seems like to be the best possible solution. What I think everyone that called in who was really concerned about this project is the cut through traffic, is the speeding. This is option B is a much more palatable option. It's only 2 feet wider. So it goes 18 feet to 20 feet. So it's only 2 feet wider. It's a compromise compared to having a width that's wide, much wider than what's there right now. We could get more neighborhood acceptance. So to me, it just seems better to go with option B.
Okay, the amendment passes 5-2. So option B is changed to option A, and I'm going to ask that we now vote on the main motion. Okay, thank you. That passes unanimously.